Hi all, I welcome you all to the next lecture today. Here Professor Ravi Kumar from School of Mechanical Engineering, Shastra deemed to be University, Tanjore. Today I am going to discuss the new topic that is available and unavailable energy. It is the eighth chapter in this series in foundation course of engineering thermodynamics. Prior to this, in previous lecture, we have covered the second law of thermodynamics and related to that numerical problems also got discussed in detail. So let's start our discussion today. So as from the second law, we know that the sources of energy can be divided into two categories. One is high grade energy, another is called low grade energy. High grade energy is nothing but work, right, which is available as a useful work, and low grade energy, which according to the second law means that is called heat, right? Heat is known as low grade energy. So the conversion of high grade energy to shaft work is exempted from the limitations of second law. That means work can be completely convertible into the uh, another form of energy, while the complete conversion of low grade energy, that is heat, into high grade energy or shaft work is impossible by virtue of second law of thermodynamics. That means only certain portion of the heat supplied will be converted into the mechanical work or useful work, and rest of the things will be rejected to the atmosphere. So the part of low grade energy which is available for conversion is referred as available energy, and the part of low grade energy which according to the second law must be rejected to the atmosphere is known as unavailable energy, right? Or you can say that is known as waste heat that we cannot utilize. So the heat which is going to the surrounding, rejected to the surrounding, is known as unavailable energy. All right. Next is dead state. What is a dead state? Dead state talks about a condition in which there is no unbalanced potential exists within the system or between the system and surroundings. And for the system, surrounding is your atmosphere, right? So when the system comes to complete equilibrium with the surroundings, it is said to have reached a state called dead state. So in such a state, the kinetic and potential energy of system must also become equal to that of surroundings. It must also be in chemical equilibrium with the surrounding. So overall, you can say there is no unbalanced potential exists between the system and surrounding to have a change of state. Thus, the system doesn't have any driving potential to produce work. With respect to surrounding, it is designated by a subscript 0 to its properties. So, whatever properties you are representing a dead state will be given a subscript 0. Next one is available energy referred to a cycle. So if we look at the cycle, this is a heat engine, right, which is taking in heat Q1 from a source, right, and producing some work that is called W net or W max, and rejecting heat, right, which is going to the sink at temperature T2, source is at temperature T1, so T1 is higher than T2, that is the condition. So we have already defined what is available energy. Available energy is the part of low grade energy. Low grade energy is nothing but heat supplied, which is available for conversion into the usual work, and the unavailable energy is known as the part of low grade energy, which as per the second law must be rejected to the atmosphere, is known as unavailable energy. So simply way we can say the available energy or the available part of energy supplied is the maximum work output obtainable from a certain heat input to a cyclic heat engine, and the minimum energy that has to be rejected to the sink by the second law is called unavailable energy, or we can say the unavailable part of the energy supplied. So if we apply the steady flow energy equation here, we can simply write Q1 is equal to W net plus Q2. So one equation you can get out of it. So Q1 is nothing but W net is known as available energy, right? And rejection is known as unavailable energy. So heat supplied is equal to summation of available energy plus unavailable energy. So the maximum work, when you are talking about the maximum work, that is only possible if the temperature of heat rejection is the is the lowest one, and lowest possible temperature of the sink will be the temperature of the surroundings and cannot go lower than that. So the maximum work, if I want to know, that is q1 minus unavailable energy, right? So efficiency of engine we defined, it is a reversible engine, so 1 minus T2 by T1. So as for, if we want to know, we want to get the maximum work, in that case the heat rejection temperature should be the temperature of surrounding, and temperature of surrounding is a dead state basically, and dead state temperature will be not by T naught. So this T2 should be T naught, right, when we are writing. So for a given T1, efficiency reversible will increase with the decrease of T2. The lowest practicable temperature of heat rejection is the temperature of surrounding with not by T naught. So we can write efficiency reversible is equal to 1 minus T naught by T1. So that is also known as maximum efficiency. So from maximum efficiency is nothing but maximum work divided by Q1. So we can get the maximum work out of it in terms of T naught and T1, when T naught is the temperature of surrounding and T1 is the temperature of the source. So this is known as available energy or maximum available energy produced from a cycle. Now, if we look at a finite process, consider a process, right? A finite process L to M, right? In which heat is supplied reversibly to the heat engine, right? Taking an elementary cycle, we have assumed this cycle here, right? In which dq1 is supplied at some temperature T1, and it is rejected heat to the surroundings. So lowest possible temperature of surrounding I am representing here T naught. T naught is the temperature of the surroundings. So we can get the elementarily available energy from this cycle. This cycle we are talking about, we can say dW max is equal to T1 minus T naught divided by T1 into dQ1. This is nothing but efficiency, right? W max is equal to efficiency into heat supplied. And heat supplied is dQ1. So we can now write this into two parts, right? That can also be written as 1 minus T naught by T1. So T naught by T1 came here. So this portion is dQ1, right? And this is called rejected, right? Basically, so W max, this is Q1 and this is Q2. So we can say this is known as available energy, right? dW max is available energy. So this actually we have considered a finite process. So if we want to make it a reversible process, we have to divide this process in an infinite number of changes, right? So when we are any process taking place through a infinitely slowly or through a series of equilibrium state, that process known as reversible process. So this process we have replaced by a reversible process. This is here. All right. So heat supplied from here is QLM, right? And heat rejected below T naught is heat rejected, right? So area under this will give the heat, and area included in this, right, will give the work, right? Area included on temperature and entropy will give the work, right? So this Q is area under LM, and Q2, if you want to know, that is under this horizontal line. So this is the heat rejected, and heat rejected is known as unavailable energy. So this portion that is given here, right, Hing has been provided. This is known as unavailable energy, and this is the available energy, right? Which whatever is there in this, right, between this line and this line is known as available energy, or you can say work. All right. So we can say dW max is equal to dQ1 minus T naught by T1 dQ1. Now we have to integrate because we have considered only one small strip. Now we have to integrate between L and M. So integration between L and M for dW max can be written as dQ1 Lm minus Lm T naught by T1 into dQ1. So by integration we can say this is just simply heat, right? That is QLM minus this is T naught is constant, so this can be taken out, and dq by T is known as entropy basically for reversible process. Dq by T is called entropy, that is called ds. So ds is will be S only, right? Just entropy. So entropy at L and minus entropy at M. So if you put it that, you will get in this way, right? So we can say from here this is available energy, right? Basically this term is known as available energy. So available energy is nothing but QLM, right? QLM minus this heat rejected. So heat rejected is also known as unavailable energy. So if somebody wants to know what is unavailable energy, that will be given by W max minus QLM, right? Or you can take this. This is basically negative. Why this negative is coming? Because heat rejected. So this negative side itself is unavailable energy. So we have to take W max this side. So this term will go there. So if you take this side, you can write unavailable energy is equal to QLM minus W max, and this difference is nothing but equal to T naught into SL minus SM. So you can say the unavailable energy can also be given as T naught into change in entropy between process L and M. L and M. This is written here. So unavailable energy is equal to T naught SL minus SM. Now, next case is decrease in available energy when heat is transferred through a finite temperature difference. In entropy principle, we have already seen that whenever there is a transfer of heat through a finite temperature difference, that process will be known as irreversible process. Whenever there is an irreversibility in the system, right, that because of that there will be loss of energy or degradation of energy. When degradation of energy will happen, we have to spend some energy to counter that problem. When that is going to happen, there will be loss of available energy. So that's what we are going to prove here: decrease in available energy when it is transferred through finite temperature difference. So we consider a Carnot cycle, which is given here over temperature entropy diagram. So Carnot cycle, this is the heat supplied, this is the heat rejected, work of compressor, work of expander, right? So this is change in entropy, right? So we from Carnot cycle we know heat supplied and heat rejection will take place at constant temperature, and all the processes are reversible, right? So when those are reversible, right, losses will be less, right? So look at the heat supplied temperature is T1 and heat rejected is the T naught. T naught is the surrounding temperature. So we can say the heat supplied is equal to T1 into delta S, right? Because we apply the entropy concept, which as for the entropy concept, ds is equal to dq by T, and you can say the Q is equal to T into delta S. So heat supplied is equal to T into delta S here, and heat rejected simply is T naught into delta S, because delta is same in both the cases, right? So available energy is the difference of heat supplied minus heat rejected. So you can write available energy is equal to T1 minus T naught into delta S. Very simple way. So this is in the case when cycle is reversible. Now we consider this cycle is supplied heat through a finite temperature difference. So we have to assume a reservoir which is at some temperature higher than the temperature of this cycle, right? So we are assuming that. So when you are considering that, that will be supplying the heat, and the temperature of reservoir will not change. So whatever heat is coming into the cycle, that is going to be utilized to produce the work. So assume that heat Q1 transfer through finite temperature difference from a reservoir whose temperature is T1, and the temperature of heat supplied to the Carnot cycle temperature is T1 dash, and provided that T1 is greater than T1 dash. So it is here. So look at this diagram. This is also temperature entropy. So we have put one reservoir here, which is at temperature T1, and this is my basic Carnot cycle which I have drawn here. So now the temperature at which we are supplying heat to the cycle, Carnot cycle, is T1 dash, and this is the reservoir, right, where from where heat is coming at T1, and T1 is greater than T1 dash. So reservoir from which heat is coming, and heat Q2 dash, right, is going at atmospheric temperature, right here. So this cycle, if you look at this cycle for reservoir is this, right? This cycle is for reservoir which is supplying heat at Q1 rejected to the surrounding, right here. And Carnot cycle is here, that basic cycle we have drawn here, T1 dash and going like this. This is the Carnot cycle, right? Where heat is applied Q1 and rejected is Q2 dash, right? So look at the difference between this reservoir cycle. Reservoir cycle is here and Carnot cycle is here. This extra portion that you are getting, that is nothing but increase in unavailability. Why this much extra work has been supplied to counter the problem of irreversibility, that is called as increase in unavailability, that we will look at. So change in entropy of the reservoir is delta S, and change in entropy of the Carnot cycle is delta S dash. So that is the case. So Q1 as received by the engine T1 dash can be found by allowing the engine to operate reversibly between T1 dash and T naught, right? So this is the thing we want to know what is the Q1 and heat rejected Q2 dash. So we can say Q1 is nothing but T1 into delta S. So this is the heat which has been supplied from the reservoir, and reservoir temperature will not change. So Q1 is equal to T1 into delta S. Delta S is here, right? This change in entropy of the reservoir. That is also equal to this Q1 because same heat is getting supplied to this Carnot cycle, right? And for this Carnot cycle, change in entropy is delta S dash. So you can say T1 dash into delta S dash is also Q1. So Q1 is equal to T1 delta S is equal to T1 dash delta S dash. That's the one thing. But we know T1 is greater than T1 dash. If T1 is greater than T1 dash, then what will happen? Then change in entropy delta S1 S dash is greater than delta S. This is also visible from here, right? Delta S dash greater than delta S. Because T1 is greater than T1 dash, change in entropy of the Carnot cycle is greater than change in entropy of the reservoir. If you look at the heat rejected for this cycle is just T naught into delta S. You look at for this cycle, reservoir cycle is here, right? And for this cycle, heat rejected is just T naught into delta S. But for Carnot cycle, it is T naught into delta S dash. So Q2 is equal to T naught delta S. This is the heat rejected for the reservoir, and Q2 dash that is heat rejected from the Carnot cycle is T naught delta S dash. As we know that delta S dash is greater than delta S, so we can say the heat rejected in the case of Carnot cycle is bigger than the heat rejected from the reservoir, right? That means what? Extra heat is going, waste heat is going out. Why that is going out? Because of the irreversibility associated in the process. So as delta S dash is greater than delta S, so Q2 dash is greater than Q2 dash, right? So if I want to know what is the work is Q1 minus Q2 dash. This is for the Carnot cycle, can be written as T1 dash delta S dash minus T naught delta S dash, and work for the reservoir is Q1 minus Q2, that is T1 delta S minus T naught delta S. So look at these two terms as delta S dash is greater than the delta S, right? That means the work produced right here basically in Carnot cycle is less than the work produced in the reservoir cycle. Why? Because heat rejected in the Carnot cycle is bigger than the heat rejected in the reservoir cycle. So where basically this loss is happening, this work is getting decreased. This work is basically utilized to counter the irreversibility. So the loss of available energy due to the reversible heat in transfer through finite temperature, irreversible heat transfer through finite difference between source and working fluid during the heat addition process is given by difference of these two, because whatever difference is coming, that is getting lost. So Q2 dash minus Q2, right? So if you put the value of Q2 dash and Q2 here, you can get T naught delta S dash minus delta S, which is the net change in entropy of entire system. This is also known as unavailability, right? So decrease in available energy, or you can say the increase in unavailable energy. Other way you can say decrease in available energy or increase in unavailable energy is given by T naught delta S dash minus delta S. That's the thing. So this much loss is happening when we are putting the heat transfer to finite temperature difference. Now, next topic is availability in non-flow system, right? So, non-flow system is piston cylinder device where mass is constant and energy may cross the system boundary. So, let's consider the same sort of setup, right? This is the closed system, right? A piston is attached. Initial condition is P1, T1, right? And final condition is atmospheric condition. So if I want to know what is the available work, I need to attach a heat engine here. So I attach the heat engine. So whatever heat is getting transferred through the system boundary is supplied to the heat engine, and the heat engine is producing the work, and rest of the heat is going to the surrounding. So this process is represented by 1 to O. So 1 is the starting condition inside the system, that is P1 T1, and this is the final condition, that is the surrounding. So if I want to make this process reversible, right, I need to assume that the cycle change is happening through infinite number of series of equilibrium state, right? So small steps processes carrying out, right? That's what we are assuming. So this is the process, right? So we can apply so if you look at here, the displacement work will be produced by this closed system, right? Which will be doing work against the atmosphere, and this is the engine work, right? How to get the engine work? We have to apply the energy balance here, that is steady flow energy equation. How to get the displacement work? We have to apply the first law of thermodynamics for the system. So total work will be the summation of these two, right? So this is the fictitious engine we have used to find out the available energy out of it. So work of engine is heat supplied minus heat rejected. How much is the heat supplied? That is Q, and heat rejected is T naught S1 minus S naught. So you can simply write here. So this is the work of engine, Q minus T naught S1 minus S naught. So equation number one. So the heat supplied to the engine is what? Whatever has been rejected from the piston cylinder, right? The cylinder surface, right? That is getting supplied to the engine. So if we apply the first law of thermodynamics to the piston cylinder, from where heat is coming out, that means the heat rejected minus Q, and because of that internal energy is getting changed up to what point? Up to the surrounding temperature. So that's why U naught minus U1. U naught is the internal energy at the temperature corresponding to the surrounding temperature, and because of this work is getting produced, that is called displacement work. So minus Q is equal to U naught minus U1 plus W fluid. So from here we can get the displacement work, that is W fluid is given by U1 minus U naught minus Q. If we add these two, right, these two, that will be the total work produced. So work of fluid plus work of engine, if you add this equation and this equation, you can write this, and you can rearrange the terms. This Q and Q will cancel out. I can write U1 minus U naught in one bracket minus T naught S1 minus S naught. This is also known as maximum possible work transfer. But thing is that actual engine is producing this much work, but this work will not be available at this shaft because some of the work will be utilized to counter the atmospheric resistance. So work done by the fluid on the piston is less than the total work done by the fluid, since there is no work done on the atmosphere, which is constant, right? So work done on the atmosphere, how much actually piston will do the work, that is given by P into dV. So P naught is the constant atmospheric pressure which will be acting on the face of the piston, and change in volume is volume of the surrounding minus volume of inside volume, that is initial volume. So P naught V naught minus V1. So this term need to be subtracted from this to get the useful work, right? That much will be available at this shaft. So useful work, right, or you can say the maximum work obtainable is, if we subtract this work, the work which has been done against the atmosphere from this equation of maximum work, we can get the useful work. So useful work is given by U1 minus U naught minus T naught S1 minus S naught minus P naught B naught minus P1. All right. So this is known as the useful work, right, from this non-flow processes. So if you rearrange the terms, right, again you can write in two brackets U1 plus P naught V1, P naught V1 minus T naught S1 in one bracket minus U naught P naught V naught minus T naught S naught. So just look at this equation. This is not actually enthalpy. For enthalpy, it should be a static pressure. It's not a static pressure, it's atmospheric pressure. So we can say this is one function, this is another function. So W max is equal to A1 minus A naught, where A is known as basically a constant, right, or we can say a non-flow availability function. So this is a function basically. So this A1 and A naught is known as non-flow availability function. So where A is given by U plus P naught V minus T naught S. So this is A, and this is basically A naught, right, A naught, because everything is naught. So A naught is equal to U naught minus P naught V naught minus T naught S naught. This is known as non-flow availability function. So if we look at the availability in a steady flow system where mass will also transfer the system boundary, right? So we apply the steady flow energy equation by considering that final velocity is zero, right? That is called exit velocity is zero. If we apply the steady flow energy equation, we can get the maximum work as equal to H plus C1 square by 2 plus Z1G. This kinetic head is potential head, right? And this is the enthalpy minus H naught minus T naught S1 minus S naught. We are assuming there is no heat loss to the surrounding. So we can write this one condition. So H1 plus C1 square by 2 plus Z1G. This is the initial energy which has been supplied plus heat. So heat basically is getting rejected to the surrounding, which is given as T naught, right? One is rejecting the surrounding, lowest possible temperature is T naught. This is getting rejected minus T naught, S1 minus S naught, right? So this is change in entropy of the system. So this is getting rejected, right? Minus H naught, minus H naught, because in second side there is no kinetic head, as well as potential head will not be there at the second side because it's atmosphere. So only H naught you will be getting. So So this is given in several thermodynamic systems. We usually neglect the kinetic head and potential energy head. So if we are going to neglect this and this, we can get only simple equation here. W max is equal to H1 minus T naught S1 minus H naught minus T naught S1. So this is known as the maximum work in a open system or a steady flow devices. In steady flow devices, we are not expanding any external work to the surrounding, right, to counter any kind of irritability. So this is also known as useful work produced in a steady flow devices. So H1 minus T naught S1 is given another name B minus V naught. These are known as steady flow availability function. Earlier we have defined non-flow availability function, right? So the property B, if we look at, that is nothing but H minus T naught S written in per unit mass is called steady flow availability function. Sometimes we represent that by psi also. In some book we are using psi function. So in equation, this equation, if you just look at this B, basically is a composite property. It is look at the specific enthalpy, and this is corresponding to the atmospheric temperature. It is a composite property of system and its environment. This is also known as Keenan function. Sometimes we say the steady flow availability function also Keenan function. So here I am giving you two note. One is the alternative names of availability and unavailability is also known as availability is known as exergy and unavailability is known as energy, right? So this is basically another alternative name of availability and unavailability. If we compare steady flow availability function with non-flow availability function, the only difference is between this and your A. If you look at A is here and B is here. Difference is only here pressure, right? Here U plus P naught B is there, but here if you write H, that will become P into V. So this is the static pressure only. That is the basic difference between the non-flow availability function and steady flow availability function. Next one is Helmholtz and Gibbs function. So the work done in a non-flow process, if you look at, will be given by the first law, that is W is equal to Q minus U naught minus U1. So Q is a heat supplied, that is nothing but T into delta S minus U naught minus U1. If you rearrange the terms, I can write this change in entropy between surrounding and system. So S2 is surrounding basically. So T into S2 is S naught minus S1 minus U naught minus u1. So if you rearrange the terms, you can get u1 minus t s1 1 bracket minus u naught t s naught, right? So this term basically u minus ts is known as another function which is known as Helmholtz function. This gives the maximum possible output when heat is transferred at constant temperature, right? This temperature is constant, and right at that time it will give the maximum possible work output, right? And it's the same with a very large source. If work against atmosphere, this is the one condition, right, when we are not assuming any work to be done against atmosphere. If we are considering the work against the atmosphere, right, into consideration, then this need to be subtracted from this, right? So p naught b naught minus p1, that is, if we subtract from here, we can get the usual work. So w max is equal to w minus work against the atmosphere. So against the atmosphere we are doing p naught b naught minus v1. So this we are subtracting from this equation. So if you do that, if you rearrange the terms, you will get u1 plus p naught v1 minus t s1, right, minus u naught p naught v naught minus t s naught. So this basically is nothing but h minus t. So if we rearrange the terms, and when we are considering constant pressure, right, so this is nothing but p, and this is known as p naught. It's known as p naught. So this can be written as enthalpy h1 minus ts1 minus this enthalpy h naught minus t s naught. So h minus ts, this another function we can say. So this h minus t s is known as Gibbs function. So we can represent this as g1, we can represent this as g naught, right, g naught. So here g is equal to h minus ts is known as Gibbs function or free energy function, right? These are the two functions which we have explained. Now come to the useful work. as I said, all the work produced in the system would not be available for delivery, since a certain portion of it would be spent in pushing out the atmosphere in the case of closed system. So the useful work is defined as the actual work delivered by the system less work performed on the atmosphere. That is called PDV work. Only in closed system we have to subtract this PDV work from the work produced, then we will get that useful work. All right. So actual work means usual work is W actual minus work done against the atmosphere, that is P naught, B2 minus P1, and B2 is nothing but volume of the atmosphere, that is called B naught minus V1. So usual work can be written in this way: E1 minus E naught plus P naught, B1 minus V naught minus T naught, S1 minus S naught. So if we neglect the kinetic energy and potential energy term, we can simply write U1 plus P naught V1 minus T naught S1 minus U2 plus P naught V naught minus T naught S1, and this term is not known as non-flow availability function, right? So we can say A1 minus E naught, right? So or phi 1 minus phi 2, some books use the phi also as non-flow availability function. So usual work is equal to phi 1 minus phi 2, or you can say A1 minus A2, right? A is also correct and phi is also correct. Phi is not a non-flow availability function. A is also a notation used for non-availability function. Different books are using different kind of notations. For steady flow system, whatever work you are producing, that itself is useful work. So useful work is equal to actual work. So with this, I am closing today's discussion. Today we have covered the definitions of available energy, non-available energy. We have seen the work produced in a closed system, right? That is called availability of a closed system, and also we have seen the availability of a open system, or you can say steady flow system. Apart from that, we have seen two different cases, right? One is heat transfer through finite difference. What will happen to the availability? There will be a decrease in availability, that already we have seen, and we have seen the availability from a for a certain process, right? How if a process will happen, what will happen to the availability? So these all things actually we have already covered in this chapter. So if you are having any doubt in this, you feel free to contact me right on this topic, right? So I am closing my discussion here, right? Next class, right, we will covering the remaining topics, right? Second law of efficiency, and also we will be talking about some applications of availability in a flow processes and non-flow processes. So thanks for your patience for listening to today's lecture, right? See you all in next class. Have a nice day. Good day.